Hello, this is Ruben Zurita again, counselor over at Student Health and Counseling Services, giving the talk on better sleep hygiene. This section right now is just looking at insomnia and defining it. Um, the typical concern that it's expressed by the students at the counseling services are are about sleep and insomnia in particular. One of the hallmarks of mental distress is a change in sleep. So even when the student is coming for other reasons to the counseling center, uh, typically sleep is one of the areas that is problematic. So, what is insomnia? Insomnia is defined as a difficulty initiating or maintaining sleep, or both, despite adequate opportunity and time to sleep. This is a really key aspect to the definition because oftentimes, as students who are busy with school, busy with work, busy with other life obligations, there can be times when the life of a student limits the opportunity to sleep. Many a student who complains that they're given all their responsibilities, they have very little time to actually devote to sleep. When that's the case, then it's not considered insomnia. A student doesn't suffer from insomnia if they're actually just don't have the time to sleep. So keep in mind that part of the definition of insomnia involves the having adequate opportunity and time to sleep. And then even though you have this adequate time and opportunity, you have difficulty initiating or maintaining sleep. So insomnia also as part of the definition is leading to impaired daytime functioning. Insomnia may be due to poor quality or quantity of sleep. So it's not always the amount of hours that you sleep that can define insomnia. There's actually quite a large bandwidth that some individuals have in regard to how well they function. For example, I'm not being clear. If some people they sleep their 7.5 hours and they're doing good, and if they have like a night where they only sleep 4, they can still do good. While other people, if they deviate from whatever it is that is their norm by even a couple hours, they can really have a large effect. They can really sort of be sluggish and have problems in concentration and memory retrieval, and fine motor skills and all that kind of stuff. So different people have a sort of different amount of fortitude or latitude that they can sort of navigate in regard to deficits in sleep. Well, insomnia is very common and occurs in 30 to 50% of the general population. And approximately 10% of the population may suffer from chronic, long-standing insomnia. I mean, oftentimes, if you have just a couple of nights of problematic sleep that even qualify for insomnia, it's usually not something to really be worried about. It's more when it's chronic or long-standing that I think that you really should pay closer attention to it and seek appropriate help. Insomnia affects people of all ages, including children, although it is more common in adults and it frequently increases with age. Earlier in a previous slide, I sort of mentioned when looking at the distribution of sleep across age, how there's a decrease in the amount of hours that older adults sort of engage in, but part of that might be a function of the fact that maybe they're just having some more difficulties with sleep. There's also some evidence that shows that there's gender differences in terms of insomnia. A lot more women complain about insomnia than men. And there is research that also shows that part of this might actually not be insomnia because the same group, women, tend to also complain about having a bigger load of the responsibility in their household. So they tend to report having to, even if they work outside the home, have a bigger sort of home work load. So they're taking care of the kids more than they're male partners and or are doing household chores more than their male partners, and so that there's this sort of differential that where they don't have the opportunity to sleep as much as the male partner does. So some of this some of the research that points to women having more insomnia than men might not really be insomnia, because it's about having, in order to have insomnia, you have to have opportunity and time to sleep. But it's something to consider that is still out there, that maybe women can have more problems with insomnia than men. And it's something to really look into and to get some help. All right. In this next slide, I'm just going to discuss a little bit about the different types of these sleep disorders that are out there. There's really a whole bunch of different sleep disorders. I'm really not going to go into great detail on these sleep disorders. The main presenting problem with sleep that students present, and that in general people present, is problems with insomnia. But there are other sleep disorders that are distinct from insomnia. And here is just a listing of several across 3 different classifications. There's dysomnias, which include extrinsic sleep disorders. A more common factor there is like poor sleep hygiene. And I have to say, from my experience with working with students at the counseling center, that this is also one of the areas that my workshop can help with, because the way to improve problems with sleep involve improving your sleep hygiene. There's also the factor where a lot of students might have problems with alcohol use, and alcohol use can really create a sort of sleep disorder. So they might believe that they're having insomnia when in fact they have an extrinsic sleep disorder. So their sleep problems are a derivative of their drinking, and not due to the other things that we talked about. So, okay, there's also circadian rhythm sleep disorders, and the more common experience for that would be the jet lag or shift work sleep disorder. So individuals, including students that I've seen at the center who work second or third shift, usually third shift, but also sometimes second shift. They're working at night, in the middle of the night, and so then they're trying to sleep during the day, but then they're also trying to take classes during the day, and so there's just a lot of problems that occurs due to that shift in the sleeping pattern that individuals go through. So there are other ones that maybe people are aware of, like in another dysomnia would be narcolepsy, which is an intrinsic sleep disorder, and there's also obstructed sleep apnea. Later, you'll have access to a helpful worksheet for sleep apnea, and if you believe that you might have any symptoms regarding that, snoring is one of the signs, although it's not the only sign. But if you snore while you sleep, that could be indicative. It's not necessary, but it could be indicative of sleep apnea. Any obstruction of like oxygen to the lungs and then to the body can create problems in sleep. So you have people who snore are more likely to exhibit this. Being overweight can also be another contributing factor to sleep apnea, as it sort of makes it difficult for the air passage to sort of stay open. There are, of course, other kinds of sleep disorders. There's the parasomnias like sleepwalking or sleep terrors, although these arousal disorders tend to occur at a younger age, but they can occur at later ages. Sleep terrors are the phenomenon in which typically a child sort of wakes up from a nightmare in the state of heightened arousal, typically screaming or yelling or crying, and typically reporting no sort of conscious recollection of the thing that they were dreaming of. So there's this sort of like shriek or yell, and they can sort of be at a loss as to why they were doing that. It's not the same thing as maybe waking up from a nightmare, which is the more sort of normal, common experience that people have that's not an arousal disorder, and from those people can also wake up, aroused, and you can be aroused from dreams regardless of their content. It can be positive arousal, it could be negative arousal, that kind of stuff. There are also a couple of other disorders, and as I said, I'm not really going to go into detail. I just wanted you to have some time to look at the different kinds of disorders that are out there. Okay, as an end, I want you to understand that good sleep hygiene tips are helpful for a variety of sleep disorders, but I don't believe that there is a single solution to many things in life. So if you find yourself not sufficiently helped by this workshop, I would encourage you to seek out more individualized services with a local clinical provider. Your primary care provider could either offer the services or refer you to an appropriate specialist. And mentioning your problems to specific SHAC providers, either on the medical side or on the counseling side, it's good to always sort of bring up any kind of sleep disturbance or problems with sleep. And hopefully these providers, I know that I, for one, and other colleagues at the center would be more than willing to sort of help out with kind of reviewing good sleep hygiene tips and things that you can do to improve your sleep, including other kinds of treatments. And I'll get into that in future slides.